Welcome to Research Impact in the Digital Age. My name is Isabel Zbukvic and I'm an Engagement Officer at Research Platforms. This is me, and as an Engagement Officer I get to use online tools and platforms to promote something that I really care about, which is research. I'm also a researcher myself and I've just finished my PhD in Behavioural Neuroscience at UniMelb. So why does UniMelb need research engagement officers like myself? Well, one of the reasons is that universities are not the places that they used to be. The university is not an ivory tower, and research does not get done in isolation. Today's universities are dynamic, and that includes more involved relationships across faculties, with other institutes, and with the public. In the past, universities were very different places. Today's universities are home to today's students, and they're also home to today's researchers. And one of these researchers is Dr. Jee Hyun Kim, an early to mid-career researcher at the Florey Institute of Neuroscience and Mental Health. And I've been working for the last year as an engagement officer on managing her online profiles. So the best way to measure the impact of the work that I've been doing representing G is to use something called alternative metrics, or alt metrics for short. Alt metrics offer an alternative way of measuring the impact of research by measuring citation by other sources other than traditional scholarly sources. So this might include social media, reference manager tools online, as well as mainstream media. Like any new tool, altmetrics aren't perfect, and some of the current limitations are regulation. There's a lack of universal standards for altmetrics. Reliability. They may indicate popularity with the general public rather than the quality of research. Context. Use of online tools may differ by discipline, geographic region, and over time. And acceptance. Many funders and institutes still use traditional metrics to measure research impact and aren't yet using altmetrics. But altmetrics also have a number of strengths. They have a huge range where we can measure beyond just the number of citations in other academic articles. They can accumulate far more quickly than traditional metrics. And if researchers get credited for a wider range of research outputs, such as data which are made available online, it could motivate further sharing, which means sharing of knowledge and sharing of skills across research areas. Let's look at the Altmetric Explorer for UniMelb. Here we can see the output of all of the university's research, and here we can see how that's changed over time. This is the number one highly rated research paper that's been produced by the University of Melbourne. Its altmetric score is 4,722, and it's in the top 5% of all research outputs scored by altmetric. Here we can see the geographic breakdown of where people are sharing this research and the type of people who are sharing the research, mainly members of the public but also scientists. We can see the different platforms that are used to share this research, and we can see the traditional citations as well as online reference manager reads. So if we search for Jee Hyun Kim in Altmetric Explorer, here she is. What we see is a similar output just for her work. So we've got an overview of all of her mentions here and her attention summary over time. And what we can do is look at that in more detail with all the different platforms there. See, Twitter is a really big one for her, and Wikipedia as well. We can go down and we can change how we view this over time, and we can see that I started at research platforms in October. We see this really big increase in her online impact in that time. Here is a month where she published several articles, and if we go back, that month of June is captured here. It's actually her most popular research paper with the highest altmetric score of 33. But amazingly, it's actually in the top 5% of all research outputs scored by altmetric. And that counts across age for the paper and source. We can see the traditional citations there as well. But what's really powerful is that we're seeing this really similar impact compared to that #1 paper for the University of Melbourne, with almost 80% of the general public, 20% scientists. And I mentioned Wikipedia before. There's 2 citations on 2 Wikipedia pages, which counts for a lot because the different citation platforms are weighted differently in altmetric. If we look at her second one, again, amazing. We can see we're still in the top 5% of all research outputs. We can see the different mentions. Again, we're across Australia and United States, and we have that breakdown of primarily members of the public, followed by scientists. So we're being seen by both members of the public and by her academic peers. And as I mentioned, one of the biggest sources of Jee's exposure online has been this Wikipedia page, which I published for her in my work as an engagement officer. This is a great place to put together all of your publications in one place for the public to access and for your academic peers to access. And here you can put in links that take you directly to the actual source of those papers. We saw in altmetrics that one of the other big contributors to Jee's big altmetric impact was Twitter. So here's a screen grab of Jee's beautiful Twitter page, which captures not only what her work is about with this pinned tweet at the top, but we can also see what makes Jee Jee. And that's the beauty of the internet. Researchers are not just names and papers. We get to see them as real people. And what we can do is to go into Twitter's inbuilt analytics, and we can also see exactly which tweets get the most attention for Jee. Jee's #1 tweet is about her actual research. This is one of the papers that she's published. And importantly here, it included a picture. Images always get lots of engagement on Twitter. The second says something about who Jee is. It relates to her work as a scientist, but it uses this fantastic hashtag with real impact that connects to both the public and to her scientific peers. It says something about exactly why it's important for researchers to be online. And this is such a key part of public engagement. And #3 is another research paper, which just goes to show that you really can get your academic work out there on Twitter. We're getting lots of link clicks, 6 link clicks every day. That includes all of those clicks through to actual research papers. We're also getting lots of retweets. So all of Jee's followers, both the public and her scientific peers, are being exposed to her work. Twitter is one of my favorite platforms to use as an engagement officer, precisely because you do get to engage with members of the public, share your knowledge, as well as engaging with other scholarly and academic peers, which means you get exposed to new conferences, new work, and potential collaborators. But what about something that's more highly specialised, where people can really easily find you? That brings me to the University of Melbourne's Find an Expert platform.
The University of Melbourne is one of Australia's leading universities with extensive research capabilities. Our experts are internationally renowned for their contributions in various fields of study, including biomedicine, engineering, higher education, arts and more. Find an Expert is a tool that helps you connect with this expertise. So what exactly is Find an Expert? It's a search tool that helps you locate a researcher from the University of Melbourne. It provides a comprehensive list of researchers and helps you find information about them. If you're a student, a researcher from the media or industry, Find an Expert will provide you with quality information about our leading experts. It's also a great place if you were looking to find public speakers. So how do you connect with our experts? Let's take a look. Simply type in the name of the expert you wish to find or the name of the research area. A full profile of the researcher gives you an overview of their professional and academic achievements, including their contact details, publications, and their availability to supervise research students or provide expert opinion.
You can see why having your Find an Expert profile up to date with your most recent work is really important for helping people find you and for building your online presence. When I started with research platforms, this is actually the search results that came up when you searched for Jee Hyun Kim in Find an Expert. Not only is she listed second, even though I put in her full name, her research interests and expertise are actually incorrect and she has no contact detail listed. This is what I was able to do by updating Jee's Find an Expert profile, by putting in her accurate research interests and expertise, adding contact details, as well as a photo, which makes it really easy for people to recognize her when she goes to conferences, both nationally and internationally. Here is her actual page, what it used to look like before I started at research platforms. There's no overview section. She's got an incomplete publication list. She's got no details about her research interests and no contact details. When I was finished with updating her profile, I have the full contact details here. All of her correct research interests, all of her affiliations and her publications have been updated. And we have this beautiful overview of Jee's work in words that both researchers and other people can understand. So to finish, let's just hear from Jee about what she's found most useful having me as her engagement officer.
My name is Jee, and I had the privilege of having Isabel to represent me on the internet. So there are three real benefits that I felt because of her work, and the first is definitely greater exposure to of the public to my research on Twitter. Now I have 3,000 followers. I think before Isabel started, maybe I had 20. I don't remember. The biggest retweeted and biggest, liked tweets are always on the publications that the lab generates. Isabel was in a great spot because she's such a great scientist to understand these publications from the lab, to be able to unravel them in lay language. It's really good that research gets described and understood by a wide audience of people. Second big benefit is obviously my personal increase in academic standing. And this is particularly important for me because there are a lot of Kims in this universe, and a lot of Korean Kims are also scientists. So if you look me up, there are so many Dr. Kims in the world. And for me to stand out is actually very unusual. And even still in meetings, I have people go, "Oh my God, you're that Kim." It was really nice to get recognized, especially having a Wikipedia page with my photo on it, that a lot of people actually start to put two and two together and realize that all these publications are not from some old person, but actually a young woman who is doing all this research, who has her own group. So I definitely know one instance where Monash University has invited me to do one of their colloquiums and sort of wooed me, and and I asked how they found me, and they definitely said they Google searched and they liked my Wikipedia page. So that's a tangible benefit that I experience in my personal academic standing internationally as well. My citations has doubled last year compared to 2015, over a year, and I wouldn't be surprised if partly that's because more people are aware of the developmental work that we do. So third benefit is I guess I feel a bit closer and more familiar with a lot of researchers around the world, so they often come out and say, "Oh wow, your finding is relevant to my finding." This is especially on Twitter. And we have this sense of closeness, and I think that sort of sense of community and closeness that I feel with my colleagues, despite being so far away from everyone, being in Melbourne, is very important to me. I know that a lot of people like when they do recommend me to speak in meetings, they simply just tell people to Google my name and a lot of things come up, and I'm sure that's because Isabel has put her work into it as well. So thank you, Isabel, and thank you, research platforms.
Our earliest scholars made some amazing discoveries, but They only had a very, very limited means of disseminating their ideas, and most of them we now know to be more accurately explained by other theories. Over time, our means of investigating the world advanced, and so did our methods for sharing our research. But some ideas still limited who could do research up until so very recently. In the past decade, so many areas of studies have advanced exponentially as we develop new technologies and tools for investigating, storing, and sharing our data. And the most important of these is surely the internet, which allows us to share like never before. This has taken the university and the researcher well and truly out of the ivory tower and into a future of collaboration and community like we've never had before. Now is the time for Melbourne Uni to become a leader in the digital age of research and for you to become one of the innovators making that happen. For further reading, please do check out my online resources and happy digital sharing.